Alright, hello then everyone, and welcome back to round 7, I believe it is now, for the Season 2 in Dryline Racing League. We have Flex Tape putting in some purple sectors, and we wait to see for the genuine people to come out on track. This guy will most likely be getting banned. He's a complete dickhead. Anyway, let's move on to the people that are coming out for the first laps in Q1. We have Mike and the Red Bull of Koru right up behind him. If I will just refresh you on the standings after Austria, we had a sprint race. KP took home the sprint victory, but then in the main race, Keanu came back at him to take all 25 points that were available. They currently sit 26 points behind each other in the standings, and then you got Koru 70 points behind KP, and we will wait to see what this round of racing can bring to us. Anyway, let's go to Koru, who will set the first lap of the weekend. We have no Dylan here today, so Dylan won't be the man to go out first in qualifying every single time, but I'm sure we'll live without it, and we can see what Koru can do in Q1. His teammate is just going through Maggots and Beckett's, so they have got quite a gap between them. And Koru starts his lap for the first time in this qualifying session. One of 3 parts of qualifying as the top 15 all managed to get through into Q2, and then you have Q3 with the top 10 shootout. I don't know what Flex Tape's doing anymore, but Fadesy gets out of the way quite nicely of KP as he pulls into Luffield and Woodcut, going purple first sector, but that is the first sector we've had out of anyone so far. Someone says Forza Ferrari. There's only one Ferrari this weekend, and maybe he'll be able to get a podium because the other 2 are quite incapable. Koru runs very wide and does actually invalidate his lap. So we will look behind as EK Cloud is now out of the session. I believe that is in the pits, so no disruption to anyone. And Mike has invalidated his lap in Maggots and Beckett's, so finding it hard to keep to the track limits at the moment. Someone who's kept it valid for the moment is Ollie De Boy, going through where Mike invalidated, and so far seems to have taken it pretty nicely and ends that second sector with a 106.5. I'm sure Flex Tape will probably straight line someone in this session. Let's hope he doesn't, but I'm pretty sure he will. And Ollie De Boy now coming through the final 2 corners, and we can see, well, this lap will obviously put him first, but what kind of benchmark it will be for the Oz, that's not even close. A 31.2 for Ollie De Boy, and I think we're going to see some much faster laps than that at the end of this qualifying session, as F1 Lewis goes to a 29.7. Lion Cookie slotting in just behind him, and then coming down is Thomas, and behind him is Goncalo Silva in the Alpine. Let's see what Thomas can do coming to the end of this lap. I haven't seen this sector split so far, but KP goes 2 seconds faster with a 27.7. Thomas comes around and it's going to be a 130.0, 2.3 off the pace at the moment, but then you've got Goncalo Silva that crossed the line. That's not a genuine lap, he invalidated. And we have Weston coming around the final 2 corners. He's going to get a bit of traffic from the Alfa Romeo, who has to scoot around the outside. Takes it pretty nicely and puts himself just behind Thomas. with a 1:30.4, I think, I believe. Koru goes 6/10 off his teammates. That's quite a gap between the two of them. Mike is now coming to the end of his line. Reese Thomas goes third fastest, 1.7 off the pace, but Mike round the final corner, he's going to slot into P7 behind Thomas. So we expect faster from Mike, who's shown he can get himself onto the podium like his teammate has. But yeah, the order is quite mixed up so far. I'll expect a few people to move by the end of the session. You can see this guy's such a dickhead. Anyway. Ooh, Ted gets a bit wayward there, has to let off the throttle. It's actually his outlap. I don't know whether that was just a glitch. But we will see what Ted's got to offer on his first lap of qualifying. Benchmark so far is a 27.7 set by the Red Bull, and then you've got 6/10 back is Koru, and then a further 1.2 back is the rest of the field. Let's see if anyone's coming to the end of the laps. Yes, we've got Josh coming around the final two corners, and as he crosses the line, he goes up into third place. Reserve. The two McLarens are both going to the pit lane. Ted has gone purple first sector. Mike invalidates that one. We have a Williams who's just starting his lap. But Keanu is just going into the second sector now. Wait to see where he can put himself in the order, but Ted is currently going through Maggots and Beckett's, and his second sector split is a 104.7. That's pretty fast from what we've seen so far. We'll see where this can put him in the order. I'd say probably P3 or P4. He will be aiming high in that Alfa Romeo, who has quite a lot of pace at the moment, and he is definitely pushing the limits. And he brings it to the line after getting very wide. Goes P3, and he probably lost about half a second in that little moment he had at the final corner. He kept it pretty nicely and not went into a spin. So decent from him. And we have Keanu, who this one is not going to be a genuine time, and he will have to go for a second run. Right now there's not a lot of people out on a lap. Yeah, I'm not sure how that wasn't invalidated. You went so wide. Nothing we can do. Dark Raven is... this must be an outlap. Yep. So that's most of the first runs done so far, but we still got Mac, Keanu, Goncalo Silva, Dark Raven, and Grin Dragon to complete their first laps in qualifying. We have 7 minutes left in the session. Hi Dylan, don't sue me. And we have Dark Raven about to start his lap, but Keanu, I didn't see that middle split. I assume in the 104s, maybe in the 103s. He goes now into Vale, up pretty close to the Alpha behind, but I don't think we get any dirty air. And he brings it to the line with a 128.4, which is P3 for the time being, just 2/10 off Koru at the time. But we still have his teammate to complete a lap, and then Grin Dragon hasn't, and Goncalo Silva is on a lap now. Mike's done 4 laps on those tyres. Oh, someone in the gravel there. Yep, flex team. I'm watching. Okay. Anyway, what's this time going to be from Dark Raven as he crosses the line and goes into P4? 7/10 off his teammate, but it's a pretty decent lap from the Mercedes reserve. I did say hi. Go away. Or should I say the Mercedes main after Ben Finch terminated his contract this morning. Which was a bit out of the blue. I didn't see that one coming. But anyway, we still have 3 drivers to set a lap time. Green Dragon, which is on his out lap on a fresh set of tyres. We have Goncalo Silva getting out of the way of the Haas of Mink, who is completing a second lap in qualifying, which would be good enough for P8, and I assume that would be good enough to get him through into Q3. Matt comes around the final corner to start his lap. I thought he was finishing. Yeah. Oh, Mike's finally boxed to get off. Not a lot. Goncalo Silva is just going into Cops now, and he's closely following Mink, who just put himself up into P8. 3.5 minutes left of this qualifying session, and then in about a minute or two we will see the last runs in Q1. I'd say the cut-off point at the moment would probably be P12, like where Mike is, maybe P13. Anyone above that I'd say is safe. Obviously they would want to set another time just to assure they got themselves into Q2. But if you want to save a set of tyres for maybe Q2 or Q3, his Goncalo Silva got wide, just like Ted did, and popped himself up into P12. I'd say he is safe. It might be tight. Ollie Du Bois is just starting his lap, and then we got Grin Dragon with a 105.8 for the first sector, and Goncalo Silva has retired. Not supposed to retire on track. And again they get wide at the final corner. Grin Dragon only goes up into P15. That might not be good enough to get himself out of qualifying 1. Mac is 4.5 tenths up on his previous time, and he needs to gain another 5 tenths if he wants to get above P15. At the moment he's rock bottom ahead of the disqualified Flex Tape and Cloud, who crashed out in the early part of this qualifying session through Cops, holding 6th gear and into Maggots and Beckett's. At the moment the only car ahead of him is his teammate, who has just completed the section he's on, maybe getting a tow down this main straight, and I think that is going to happen at Aston Martin. Mac picks off the tow of F1 Lewis as he heads now into the final couple of corners. Will this lap time be good enough to get him out of qualifying 1? He's really pushing the limits, getting up to that white line and into the final 2 corners. He has a minor lock-up, which might have lost him a bit of time, and he needs a 1:30.7. He comes to the line, and it's not good enough. He's only P16. Ollie Du Bois now has to improve to get himself out of Q1, and he can't do so either. He's only P17. And there is not any... he's got a minute left, but I think that's his final runs completed. So I think that means that Grin Dragon is through. Mac is out. maybe Ollie the Boy is going for a second lap, and we might have to watch on, as he is just 900ths down on his previous time going through Luffield now. I don't know whether he has the tyre life to go for a second lap. He's currently 3.5 off, and he needs to gain half a second in these final two sectors as he goes through Cops now and then into Maggots and Beckett's. Here's the AlphaTauri of Mike ahead of him, but I don't think that will be a nuisance to him because Mike is going faster. And then his middle split is a 106.5, so he needs to gain half a second in this final sector, and the checkered flag is down. Ollie the Boy goes wide, and that has invalidated his lap time, so this one it will not be good enough. So that means the Williams of Green Dragon is through into Q2, and Ollie the Boy and Mac are knocked out in Q1. The tow was not good enough from the Aston Martin pair, and that means we got KP, Koru, Keanu, Mike, Dark Raven, T. Crombie, Thomasani, Josh JS, Reese Thomas, Mink, Lewis, Light Cookie, Weston and Green Dragon into Q2 as Max spins it on the line, and that should be everyone finished. Thomas is going for another lap, but I think he's over for this one. Yeah. So that's the end of Q1. We will be back with Q2. There we go then. KP is fastest in Q1 by over 5/10. I'm going to go grab a drink, and then we will be back with Q2 to see who can get into the top 10 shootout. Oh, I'm back. Alright, here we go then. Q2. I just got chased with potatoes. Don't ask. Let's go then. Corey will be first. No, he won't. Mike will be first on. He just hit the wall. Did he not? Is there damage on that AlphaTauri? Be hoping to set a more representative lap time this time around. We know he has the pace to probably get into the top 10 at least, maybe in the top 8, top 6. Especially with the absence of a Ferrari, and then you've got the Mercedes reserve. And Romeo in the fight. And he hasn't got Liam to compete with today, so Corey will be looking to get his first victory in Dryline Racing League. He hasn't had one yet this season. I think he's been on the podium a couple of times, but hasn't got near to that race win. I think he's had the most amount of pole positions, but not yet translated one of them into a race win. So maybe at the British Grand Prix, a 27.9, and Koru a 27.6. So Koru 3/10 up on the AlphaTauri through this first sector. And there is an Aston Martin. I don't know whether he'd gone into the grass on purpose or he went into the grass to get out the way, but he was making sure he was out the way. And Mike is now heading on. Miss out on Q3. Mike with a 1:29.0 and Corey crossing the line with a 1:27.7, so 1.2 ahead of that AlphaTauri. We then have KP Games, who goes a 10.5 faster than his teammate. Lewis is just starting his lap, but we have the line. Oh, everyone's going to the box. The next driver will probably be T. Crombie. He gets a bit wide and has to ease off the power there. Not what he wanted, what he would have wanted. Josh, I missed, went P3. So a pretty good lap time from him. But in towards Vale now, we can see what kind of lap time T. Crombie can get compared to the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari. He goes into P5, so that mistake must have cost him on the lap. And then we have the two Hasses. Mink comes around first with a 29.2, and he's just off from T. Crombie, but Thomas Annie has invalidated that lap time. The Dark Raven, though, to cross the line and goes up into P4, so just behind that Ferrari. And then we have Reese Thomas with a 29.9, who's a bit far off the pace, but his teammate has now come around the final corner and his lap time is a 1:30.6, so I wouldn't say that's a representative time from Western, and there are definitely faster lap times to come. But we have a bit of a traffic jam in the final sector as both Red Bulls head off into the pits, and Keanu starts his first lap of Q2. Let's just see where he can put himself. He would like to split the Red Bulls, but just being off the Red Bulls is not bad either. Now into Village he goes, and onto the Wellington Straight, and the first sector time from him is a 27.8, which I believe was 0.2 off what Koru could manage in that first sector, but that might be the straight line speed advantage that the Red Bull has, or maybe just the way their cars are set up for the first couple of corners. Keanu takes Kopp's pretty much flat out, and then towards Maggots and Beckett's now. He needs to hook it up on the apexes, try not to go over that white line. Misses 2 of those apexes there. Would like to be closer, more on the curb, but a 104.1 for the first sector, for the middle sector, sorry, is pretty good. And into Stowe now. Want to be pushing onto that white line just about, and then into Vale and Club Corner. I'd say this lap will be good enough for P3. In the standings, Keanu goes into P3, so 6.5 tenths off the leader. But you've got to remember that that Mercedes is much slower than the Red Bull. As T. Crombie gets it all mixed up, going through cops and has to back off again. I'm surprised he didn't invalidate there. That was wayward from the Alfa Romeo, and now has invalidated that time. Not having the greatest qualifying is Ted. But that can all change. I believe Tommy Sani's going into the pit lane for a new set of tyres, currently in P9, Haas P8 and 9, which is currently good enough for Q3, but yet again we have 4 drivers that are yet to set a lap time, one of them being F1 Lewis, who's about to go for a lap, so we will go on board with the Aston Martin, and he can see where he can put himself in the standings. Ooh, and that Aston Martin, no, it didn't go round. Anyway, I was tired of that awful onboard audio, and we will head back to the offboard. Just keeping it within the white lines there, going through cops. Now into Maggots and Beckett. He's held it pretty well, pushing most of those white lines. He is one of 2 drivers out on track at the moment. We have T. Crombie, who is going for an early second lap in Q2. Lewis rounds the final corner. Seems to be a pretty decent lap so far. He goes into P9, so splits the Haas duo with a pretty decent time. We still have 3 drivers to set a lap. I assume they'll be going for 1 lap at the end of Q2. Ted must have had a spin, I assume. Yeah, let's see what Ted can do on, I assume this will be his last lap of Q2. Let's ride on board with Ted's wing for this one. Oh. Anyway, let's go for a lap with Teddy Boy and see where this puts him. So far, no apexes missed. And on towards the Wellington straight, and his first sector is a 27.8, which is only 2/10 off what Koru could manage in the first sector, but then into Woodcut and on towards Cops now. He'll be looking to push onto those white lines and taking a very wide line to get the most cornering speed, and invalidates L. Rip Ted's qualifying. I think P7 will be good enough, but the top 10 is from 7th to 10th. It's split by 4/10, so he might not be. We hope 4:10, but hopefully both hashes get through into Q3. Both out on track at the moment, and Ted seems to have enough fuel for 2 flying laps. So this will definitely be his last lap of the session. But as well as that, we have Reese Thomas that is about to start his flying lap, and behind him is Mink, and then you have the 2 Williams. Yeah, that was a decent lap from F1 Lewis, I'll give you that. But Ted is currently a 10th up on his first sector time, which would right now be good enough for P6. So he'll be looking to go maybe into P5, even P4, with a 4/10 improvement. And then he would definitely secure his place in Q3. I'd say it's probably already secured, but he definitely wants to make sure as he goes another 2/10 faster, which would be good enough for P5 at the moment. Behind him are Weston, and then you've got Mink, the 2 Williams, and Reese Thomas. But into the final 2 corners we go with Ted, where this lap time gonna put him no squabble like he did in Q1, and goes up into P5. We now wait to see what lap time Reese Thomas could do, and he goes 5/10 quicker than his previous time, which would currently be good enough for only P10. So he needs to gain more time in this final sector and through the final 2 corners. We can see where this puts Reese Thomas in the standings, and across the line it's only into P10 with a 29.4, but behind him Mink is finishing his lap with a 28.8 and goes up into P5, and across the line goes the Williams of the Line Cuckoo, who hasn't made it through into Q3. Grin Dragon around the final corner, can he do it? He's only P13. Weston on his final lap of qualifying, currently in P14. Goncalo Silva hasn't come out for a lap, and Weston around the final couple of corners goes into P13. So that means doesn't at the moment. Thomas could knock out Reese Thomas and get that Haas into Q3 as he rounds the final 2 corners and brings it to the line. Thomas puts a lap time good enough to get into Q3 in the Haas, knocks out Reese Thomas. It's a double blow for McLaren in Q2 and as well for Williams. And then you have Goncalo Silva, who didn't set a lap time, but a decent lap from F1 Lewis gets him through in P10. Reese Thomas narrowly misses out by under a 10th. He'll be gutted with that. But he can't beat himself up too much. That was a decent lap time for P11. But again, KP Games leads us through Q2 from a Red Bull 1-2, and then you got Keanu and Josh, Mink, T. Crombie, Dark Raven, Mike, Thomas Sani and F1 Lewis. That was a very nice Q2, but now we move on to the top 10 shootout, and this is where we can see and we will be back when Q3 starts, because I need to eat something. KP Games then goes fastest from his teammate in Q2, and we move now towards Q3, and so far KP has set the pace, so we'll see if he can translate that into a pole position here at the British Grand Prix. Q3 is upon us, and these are the lap times that matter, as most of them head out for their first run in Q3. Mike has turned into the new Dylan for this session, and is out straight away. So, quali predictions. Who do we think is going to take pole? I'm going to say KP for pole, and then Red Bull to lock out the front row with Keanu P3 and then Josh P4. And then I'm going to put a prediction that Ted gets P5. Was it P6? P5 or P6. And then Mike, then Dark Raven, and then the Haas pair, and then F1 Lewis. What a genius you are, mate. An F1 car. Ugh. Oh no, Thomas is going to be the first man to set a lap. Go Thomas. I hope you get higher than my prediction. Let's go then. We have traffic in the final corner. As usual, as everyone slows down to start their lap. Oh, Thomas is in the wall. He's not, he's into the polystyrene barriers. And that is going to be that set of tyre over and done with. I'd just bring that back to the box and put on a new set for the end of Q3. So, Thomas's first qualifying run ends in the polystyrene barriers. Hopefully it didn't hamper the rest of them too much. Mike is still carrying on with his lap time, and then now we got Koru and I want to say Keanu behind. Nope, Dark Raven. But Mike so far has not invalidated this lap, which is good on his behalf, so we didn't have to use only one set. But this first run is a 104.6, but I assume these are scrub tyres, maybe? I think so. It must be, so I think he used 2 sets of tyres in Q1. Mike with a 29.0. Can Dark Raven beat that? It's going to be a 28.6, so can, but not by a lot. Here's the benchmark time for Keanu with a 28.0, 7/10 quicker than his teammate. Josh to not settle up. We then have KP around the final corner. This should be quickest. Yes, a 27.4, so 5.5 tenths quicker than Keanu, but Lewis has not completed that run. Ted is coming around the final few corners. Don't spin it around the final corner. It's only good enough for P4 at the moment, but crucially ahead of the AlphaTauri of Mike in their battle for P3 and 4 in the constructors. But Koru missing out on that first lap. He must have invalidated, I believe. And Thomas, we obviously saw spin it, but Lewis is on his first lap, and Josh is going through Maggots and Beckett's now. I think he rode the curb there. Yeah, that must have invalidated his lap. I'm sure he rode the red sausage curb. Anyway, Josh has invalidated the lap. That means the only man on a lap at the moment is F1 Lewis, I believe, and he has a 105.8, and that's not a competitive time, so this must be a scrub set of tyres, because I believe Ted was a 104.6. So there's no way this is a fresh set of tyres, and he spins it around the final corner. I think he's still going. Yeah. So a bit of a moment. He still puts a lap on the board. Koru's straight back out on a fresh set of tyres, I believe. Yep. So fresh set for Koru. Sorry, Corey's come around the final 2 corners. He's starting his lap. Now we have to wait for a couple of minutes. But KP's actually coming out, and that's fairly early, maybe to avoid the traffic at the end of Q3. Anyway, Koru is going through the second sector, and it is a 1:03.3, which is very fast, and that will definitely be up at the time KP is set. So it's 2 bulls charging for that pole position. Maybe this is Koru's final lap in qualifying as he rounds Vale. And into the last corner to cross the line. It is a 1:27.2, so he goes ahead of his teammate, but KP is just about to start his lap. They are currently the only men out of track. Koru has provisional pole position, so all the pressure is now on KP to start his first final flying lap of this qualifying session into Abbey. No spin so far, and through village now and onto the straight. We wait to see what his first sector is, whether he has improved on that first time, as Koru now retires from the session. So that is his last flying lap in qualifying. KP is half a tenth up on his previous time as he exits Woodcut and now on towards Copse and then Maggots and Beckett's. KP needs to find more time if he wants to snatch pole position and doesn't invalidate on the outside of Copse. He moves forward now into Maggots and Beckett's, and then through into Chapel and onto the Hanger Straight for the final time in qualifying. He is 700ths up on his previous time, and so far that's not good enough for pole position. Into Stowe now, keep on the throttle towards Vale, and then Club Corner to end the lap. Hits that inside apex, takes a lot of curb, lets the car drift out wide to pull it back to the right hand side to complete the lap. Is it good enough? It's not good enough for pole position. He's still a tenth and a half off Koru's previous time, but who else is on track to deny him? I don't think anyone is on a flying lap at the moment apart from him, so he's going to have to wait. Keanu is still in that fight for pole position. He needs 7.5 tenths, but that was, I think, on a scrub set of tyres for that first lap. It will be an astounding pole position if he does manage to get it, especially with the pace the Red Bulls have set in this session. But yeah, let's just see. Mink is just starting his lap, and then we have Mike, who's already on one, going through Village. We have yellows in sector 3. That's just Keanu warming up his tyres. Into Woodcut, Mike is 200ths up on his previous time, and now he gets on towards Copse. We have yellows all over the circuit for drivers who are slowing down. Mike takes Copse pretty nicely, and he's going to have a clear run towards the end of his lap, as long as KP gets out of the way of him, who's warming up his tyres, maybe going for a final lap in qualifying, which would definitely be interesting. Mike is 2 tenths up on his previous time, which would be good enough at the moment for P5 as he goes round Stowe and towards Vale. We see what he can put in for the final lap and his grid slot for the race in a few minutes time. Mike comes to the end of his lap, and it's going to be good enough for P4 at the moment for Mike, but we still have Mink, who has unfortunately invalidated his final lap, so he won't be moving up any more places. But we have Josh, who has left it all to the last lap and is going towards Vale now, and then into Club Corner. Where can Josh put himself in the standings? Is it going to be quick enough to beat Mike and maybe even Keanu as he rounds the final corner? Josh goes into P4, so beats Mike to that second row of the grid, but Dark Raven has come to the end of his lap. He's 2.5 tenths up and goes up into P5, and then we have the Haas of Thomas Sani rounding the final corner, goes into P6, so a great lap from the Haas. Keanu is rounding the final corner. It doesn't look like it's going to be good enough for P2 and 3. No, it's only P3 for Keanu, but best of the rest from the Red Bulls. But we still have T. Crombie, who goes up into P4. So that is our grid for the race. Didn't really get to show you, but there we go. T. Crombie 4th for this Grand Prix, and I'd say that's pretty much best of the rest. There we go then. Koru takes pole position, just a 10.5 better than his teammate in P2. Then you got Keanu in the Mercedes P3, T. Crombie P4, Josh, Dark Raven, Tomasani, Mike, Mink, and F1 Lewis rounds out the top 10. And that was a fairly interesting end to Q3. And now towards the race, we can see who can take the win there and who can still be on the podium by the end of it. Keanu will probably be fighting at the front. We know his race pace is really strong. And then Josh will be hoping to get past T. Crombie fairly early on so he can maybe stay in P4 or maybe even advance into the podium places. But that is the end of qualifying. Here we go then for the formation lap and start of the Grand Prix. It is blue skies over Northampton in Silverstone. And we have 19 drivers on the grid. Flex tape is thankfully not here, so we don't have to worry about him, but most people starting on that medium tyre apart from P15 to P18 all going for the hard tyre, so they'll be hoping to run longer on the first stint and get back at the front runners when they are on less fuel. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Will Corey be able to hold first place, or will KP snatch it again?